Hey, good morning to everybody. Happy Saturday. It's Daryl here. It's bright and freaking early, man. It's 3:30 a.m. here in Connecticut on the East Coast. I can't say that honestly. It really isn't. It's Thursday, 3:30 p.m. But I've already downloaded 2 videos today and Thursday, so I'm probably going to be downloading this tomorrow morning. That's when you're going to see it. I can't sit here and just pretend it's another day. Okay, so now that we cleared that up, I have another story on racial profiling or racial discrimination. I'm not going out of my way to find these stories. These are just the stories that are trending now on a lot of the platforms, a lot of the news feeds that I'm looking at. This one particular one is on TMZ, but it's also on a whole bunch of other platforms or media sites. I also, after I talk about TYRESE Gibson from Fast and Furious, I'm going to talk about a Big Brother update. The Luke Valentine that got kicked off, his father has comments, and I'll get to that right at the end of this video. All right, so here it is. Here's the TYRESE Gibson. Like I said, TYRESE Gibson from the Fast and the Furious is suing Home Depot for $1 million. He figures that's about how much money he's spent over the years renovating his home. He's got a beautiful home. If you look in the article down below on TMZ, you'll see it's an amazing, beautiful place. I believe he spent at least $1 million on it. He also says that he lives right next door to the owner of Home Depot, who I swear, I'm pretty sure the owner of Home Depot is a big Trump fan. Because I remember this boycott Home Depot. Usually liberal. I don't know. I don't think liberal people, Democrats, really get into the whole boycotting. Go woke, go. With the right, go woke, go broke. I really don't feel that our side does the boycotting thing. Anyway, I'm getting off track. Okay. So TYRESE Gibson claims that he says rightfully that he ran into his first cashier, Karen, I think he calls her. And I can't believe, honestly, I keep going back and thinking this is all over 2 candy bars. Is really, I watched the video over and over again to get the whole picture of what's happening here. And the cashier, I believe she's also a manager, and it's this. I'll use her picture on the newsfeed because throughout this whole thing, she's rolling her eyes and she's like she's all bored and she's like, just so put out by all of this. Her exasperation is just so over the top. Okay, this is what it's all over. This happened back in February at the LA's San Fernando Valley Home Depot. TYRESE Gibson was in the Home Depot with 2 of his helpers. I believe he calls them creative assistants and interior designers. I think that's the terms he used. These 2 gentlemen with him. I believe they're Hispanic men. I don't know if TYRESE talks about how he doesn't have a racial bone, a racist bone in his body, and he treats them. I don't know what kind of point he was making about that, but that's why I mentioned it. Okay, so he's in there with his 2 workers and him, and apparently the video doesn't show this, but I guess he had 2. I thought it was like a bunch of home repair stuff, like 2x4s or chipboard or something like that. It was 2 candy bars, but that's not the point. The point is how he's being treated there. So he goes up with his 2 candy bars and his 2 assistants, and people start recognizing him, and he starts to feel uncomfortable. So he gives his credit card to his assistants, and he does that in front of the cashier and manager, and he says, "Look, I'm leaving. I'm going back. I'm going outside. I'm leaving my credit card with my assistants here to pay for these," and he walks out. They go to pay for it, and she insists, the manager, the cashier Karen, insists that he come back in and show his license, a photo ID. And he says, so he calls her up, and he's on FaceTime. He's FaceTiming her, and she's on the phone with her manager. And he's saying, "I was just in there, and then he said, you guys let me walk out without even paying for these 2 candy bars, and now you're insisting." He says, here I am, and his face is right on FaceTime. You can see his picture in the corner of the computer. You can see her on the screen, and it's got his little FaceTime picture. And he's like, here's my, well, she's probably seeing his whole face on the screen, FaceTime, and here's my ID, Why can't she's insisting that he come back in with the license. And I started thinking about this. I didn't get a credit card because of being in recovery and everything. I didn't really I was straightening my money out after 2.5 decades of drug use. So I didn't get a credit card until I'm late, as I've said in other videos. I'm like behind everybody else. And I didn't get a credit card until less than 10 years ago. So this is all kind of new to me. But I know I never been asked for a license ever. I thought about this for a check. They usually get your because I thought about for a second. I was like, does she need the license to write down the numbers? Because I've seen that sometimes, but then I remembered that's for checks. If the check bounces, or personal checks, if the check bounces, so you have an ID to go back and track the person down. But with credit cards, you swipe it through, and it's either good or it's not good. There's no reason. I have never seen anybody have to present a license. So this woman says she claims it's store policy, right? And he says, you just let me walk out of there with 2 candy bars. I said I was giving in front of her. I'm giving my credit card to my workers to pay for this. Here I am. Here's your photo ID right here in front of you on the screen. I'm TYRESE Gibson. And nope, it's not good enough. She wants him to come back in and present his license to her. And this is all over 2 candy bars. I know the candy bars, that's not the point. That's, it doesn't, it could be 1,000 candy bars or 2 candy bars or 2x4s, it doesn't matter. And throughout the whole thing, she's rolling her eyes and it looks like she's chewing gum. She's just all bored. She's not impressed that he's Tyrese. I don't know if she even knows who TYRESE Gibson is. She's obviously not a fan of the Fast and Furious. So he comes back in and he's rightfully ticked off. That's when he tells them, look, I live next, right? He asks for their names. He says, she won't give him her last name. He says, I just had to give you my last name, my whole name, my first and last name. Now, and she won't give him her last name. And he says, oh, it doesn't matter. I'll find out, because I live right next door. I'll find out everything. I live right next door to the owner of Home Depot. And he doesn't come out and say it, but he's basically saying, you might as well say goodbye to your job. That's kind of what he insinuates here. And she's there's a manager that's called up front, this smaller Caucasian guy, and TYRESE is just kind of keeping him quiet. And let me finish. He's telling him to, the manager seems to be agreeing with him. But TYRESE is saying, he says, if it's store policy, it's store policy, but you've got to be consistent. And he feels that just because he's black. I wonder too if it's just because he's an actor. I don't know. I'm not a black man, and I'm not an actor, so I have to take his word for it. Her attitude just seems like she's not impressed with him at all. Like she's bored with him. And he's saying, if there's a store policy, it's got to be consistent across the boards, and he's going to sue them for $1 million, and that's where it was left. It was kind of ridiculous, this whole thing. Like I said, I've never seen, she obviously, the ID's right there, and that doesn't even, and no, they never even ask for ID. She sees his face right on FaceTime, and she still insists that she wants him to come in and present his license to her. And I don't know if he doesn't get around to if he ever did. I think he was I assume he did when he came back in, and you'll see the rant. There's a video down below. I call it a rant because TYRESE Gibson is rightfully upset about this. Her attitude is just unbelievable. Okay, let me know what you think about this. Is it obviously because he's a black man? Is it because he's a black man and a famous actor? Is it because he's an actor? Seriously, I'm very curious of what your opinions are. Please leave your comments and let me know. Why is she being such a freaking Karen with TYRESE Gibson? What is her problem? Or do you agree that he should come back in? He needed to come back in and show his license. If you're that person, please let me know. Okay, Big Brother Luke Valentine. There's another TMZ article down below. And this is really short, but his father said he was surprised and disappointed to see his son use this racial slur. He says he's never heard his son use these before. He wasn't brought up in a racist family. And here's the kicker. He says that Luke Valentine's stepmother is black, and also his step siblings. So I guess the father is saying apparently that he married a black woman with black kids. And Luke Valentine has a black stepmother and black step siblings. The video I did about that, I mentioned about how nowadays how this N-word is thrown around in different contexts by different people, and then sometimes it's okay if it's a black person talking to another black person. I've heard white people that hang out that are in the I don't want to say act black, but are more involved in the hip hop culture throw the word around. And I did a video talking about how back in my day, it was just off. It was just the wrong word. It was a symbol of one of the worst times in American history, and nobody got to use it back when I was younger. Anyway, and I guess he says this. The father says the stepmother was disappointed too, being black. I can't imagine that. Your mother is black, and here you are throwing around the N-word, and your step siblings. Wow. It says in this article too. You can imagine what Thanksgiving dinner is going to be like. Anyway, let me know what you think about this. I don't think there's just no excuse for this. There really isn't. No matter how he used it, and the fact that he just let it slip out like that tells you something. Because it would never slip out of my mouth. That would never happen because I don't use that word. I have never used that word. I told you guys in the last video. There was one time when I was 10 years old, and my mother put a quick end to that. We don't think we're above anybody. We don't use that word in this house, and she let me know right then and there. And I remember the look on her face of just disappointment. I still remember the look on her face. It was the worst feeling. She was disappointed in me. She was shocked and disappointed that I used that word when I was a 10-year-old boy. Anyway, let me know what you think about these stories. The links will be down below, especially the TYRESE Gibson. I urge you guys to watch it. I'll put that right on top. You're watching this Saturday, so have a good Saturday.